Oh, it's another day here at the Comeback Team Studios, and this is your host, Beck Lover, and you're watching another episode of the Interesting Times podcast, right here on the Beck Lover podcast, where I gather all the news, all the stories, everything you need to know about the crazy world that we live in. An interesting world indeed. I just appeared on a very important podcast. For those of you who like to follow my work, besides telling you the news, I just appeared on the Jada Bell podcast where we discussed geopolitics, life, faith, spirituality, the similarities that Christians and Muslims have, dating, cryptocurrency, end times prophecy. If you're into that kind of stuff, you're going to love this episode. I'll play a little highlight, and you can check out this 1.5 hour podcast. Just search for Beck Lover on YouTube or Jada Bell. I'll include a link in the description of this episode. It's not that child's fault. You've lost everything if you don't have love for that child. Like, it was in your womb, man.
Yeah.
Regardless of the father or not, that's your baby, man.
Your soul, like you touch on this so well. Like, the more you sin, the more you lose your soul.
Cold heart.
And that's why you
and I've
hear
been there,
women.
so I know.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't feel nothing. I was doing the wrong thing. I was out. I was drinking. I was doing things I shouldn't do. And the reason I don't talk about my sin, you're not really supposed to talk about them. It's between you and God, because you don't want to inspire others to sin. So it's something, when you do something that's shameful, it's between you and God, and you pray for His mercy. You know?
I believe that, because a lot of Christians.
Because a lot of times guys will be like, "Yo, I did this last. Listen, it is what it is."
Yeah.
Yo, last night, I was with her, and like. Sorry,
no, I think about that a lot, and actually, I prayed, and I said, God, if a gun is pointed to my head, and I'm asked that question, that I will be able to die, for you. And
yeah, the prophet said you have to choose between fire or water. His fire, we covered all kinds of stuff that you might want to check out. So head over to Jada Bell's podcast on YouTube. Drop a comment. It really helps me out, and a heart and a thumbs up. And make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the work that I do and doing all the homework for you in the news. I know I'm not alone out there. So many of us get depressed when the day gets shorter, the weather gets colder, especially in areas where the climate does dip below freezing and the day gets shorter. Basically at 4:30, it's dark out. I don't know why they don't just end daylight savings already. Like, the majority of us are not farmers, and even farmers don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn anymore because they have equipment for all this stuff. Production's way through the roof. But winter depression is real, and there are many ways to fight back. Yeah, like, don't live where it's winter. Like, get rich, get an apartment in Miami and head down south, be a snowbird. That's what I'm trying to get to. I'm actually trying to live in Florida full time and head north into Europe in the summer. As winter approaches and daylight hours grow shorter, people prone to seasonal depression. It is a feeling of panic, fear, anxiety, and dread all in one. She's among the millions of people estimated to have seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, as it's called. Her coping strategies include yoga, walking, and antidepressant medication. I don't recommend that. Talk to your doctor. I mean, there's side effects to everything, man. But talk to your doctor. I try to focus on helping others through it. Pataki said, this gives me purpose. People with SAD, again, that stands for seasonal affective disorder, typically have episodes of depression that begin in the fall and ease in the spring or summer. Changing the clocks back to standard time, which happens this weekend, can be a trigger for SAD. A milder form, subsyndromal SAD, is recognized by medical experts, and there's also a summer variety of seasonal depression, though less is known about it. Scientists are learning how specialized cells in our eyes turn the blue wavelength part of the light spectrum into neural signals affecting mood and alertness. Sunlight is loaded with blue light, so when the cells absorb it, our brain's alertness centers are activated and we feel more wakeful. This article is in the Associated Press. The Daily Mail reports, because, tomorrow's Halloween, and it used to be one of my favorite activities to partake in until I understood the demonic undertones of it, what its origins were, and I just don't see how anyone who's a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew could practice or celebrate Halloween. I know that we think it's harmless, but if you are spiritual, we can't pick and choose what is right and what is not, and what is demonic and what is not. It's demonic. Tonight's mischief night. I used to enjoy going out at night and getting my ass kicked because all over town kids would get together in little gangs and throw toilet paper and eggs and at each other, and sometimes we'd get beat up. And one year I watched my friends get their ass kicked by the police. It was hilarious, actually. They were literally getting hit with billy clubs. I mean, we were all like 12, 13, 14 years old. It was hilarious. I mean, my friends were running for their lives, and yeah, they got their asses beat by the cops. In any event, tomorrow's Halloween. A lot of people are going to dress up and go around asking for candy. And please be safe and take the normal procedures that you should if you're going to take your kids out trick-or-treating. I always said, let them go out and trick-or-treat, then dump the candy in the garbage and give them fresh candy that you buy if you're going to play that game. But in any event, Halloween, we think of people dressing up as monsters and ghouls and goblins, and you know, Dracula being a vampire is very popular, and also being a witch. Well, I have two interesting stories here. How Poland's mysterious vampire spent her final moments. Wealthy 18-year-old dubbed Zosha was pinned to the ground with a sickle across her throat and a padlock on her toe to prevent her from returning from the dead. It was 2 years ago in rural Poland that archaeologists made a gruesome recovery of a skeleton buried with a sickle across her neck and a giant padlock on her toe. Feared as a real-life vampire, this form of double protection was fitted to the female corpse by Polish locals to keep her from rising from the grave. Now the experts have revealed new information about the woman, along with the artist's illustrations of what she may have looked like. The vampire, christened Zosha by archaeologists, was 18 years old at the time of her death, about 350 years ago in the mid-17th century. Bone scans have uncovered an abnormality in Zosha's breastbone, which suggests she may have had physical deformity that caused great pain. It may have been this deformity that made her especially feared as a vampire before she was brutally sacrificed and buried. But despite being deemed to attack the living after death, the artist's impression suggests she was fair of face with blue eyes and cropped hair. The latest revelations about Zosha are the subject of a new 2-part documentary, Field of Vampires, to broadcast on Sky History. The vampire Christian Zosha by the archaeologists was 18 years old, and here are some shots of her skeletal remains. This is how they think she looked. She's around one of 100 skeletons that have been found in a field outside the small village of Pień, south of the city of Turan in Poland. She was unearthed in the summer of 2022 by archaeologist Professor Dariusz Poliński and his partner Magda Zogradecka. It was late in their excavation at Pień 2 years ago that the Professor Poliński trowel had struck what would sounded like metal. After carefully brushing away the soil, researchers found Zosha, who is the only skeleton in the field with a sickle around her neck. And there's another shot of that if you are watching this show, which you can watch on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. But we're not done with monsters and witches. A witches' marks and curses found carved into the walls of historic England Manor. This is reported by NPR. Here's a shot. A set of markings known as witches' marks have been discovered carved into the walls of a historic medieval manor in England. The witches, or apotropic marks, believed to protect against witches or evil spirits, and other ritual carvings were found at the Gainsborough Old Hall in Lincolnshire in eastern England. They were discovered during 2 years of research by Rick Berry, a volunteer for English Heritage, the organization that oversees Gainsborough, along with more than 400 other historic sites. Berry found and cataloged roughly 20 carvings in a wide range of designs, mainly in the servants' wing at the property, which dates back to the late 15th century, English Heritage said in a press release Tuesday. This is reported by NPR. Notably, rare curse inscriptions were found, which English Heritage said it had not previously seen at any of its sites. One such inscription was of the name of the property owner's businessman William Hickman, written upside down. Defacing a person's name was thought to curse that person, according to the English Heritage. There were also 100 burn marks, which the organization said was to protect against fire. Kevin Booth, head of the collections at English Heritage, said the reason for the many markings at the site is unclear. Built in the 1400s, the property has been owned and visited by prominent wealthy figures in England, including the family of Sir Thomas Berg II, King Henry VIII, and Queen Catherine Howard. Hickman and his family lived in the manor beginning in 1596, according to the English Heritage. Called an astute, ruthless businessman, the organization said he manipulated his authority as an owner to maximize both his control and income. Vampires and witches, oh my. Interesting news here as the campaign is in its final days. RFK Jr. claims Trump pledged to give him control of cannot talk today. Plan to give him control of the HHS USDA. A Senate confirmable position could be difficult given his vaccine skepticism and other controversial positions. RFK said Monday that the former President Donald Trump had promised him control of HHS and the Department of Agriculture, according to a video obtained by Politico. Speaking at a virtual event, the former presidential candidate said the key that the President Trump has promised me is control of public health agencies. Okay, where a lot of Robert F. Kennedy people use the term MAHA, make America healthy again. And I agree. There is all kinds of horrible things in our food that most Americans don't know. The acronyms that these companies are allowed to use make it hard for Americans who are even allergic to certain chemicals being in their foods, their soaps, their toothpaste. I happen to be allergic to propylene glycol. It took me years to figure it out. My head would literally bleed and break out into boils for years. And I went to so many dermatologists, and none of them really helped me until I found this amazing woman who studied in Africa, came to the U.S. and became a dermatologist, and she took the time and the patience to figure out what was wrong with me, when so many of the other doctors that I visited, all men by the way, could have done the same thing, but they didn't care because I wasn't as profitable as somebody that needed Botox or some type of plastic surgery or whatever. So I suffered for years when I didn't have to. So these types of chemicals shouldn't be in our soaps and our food and our drinks, aspartame and all these different things they put in sodas that cause cancer. Like, what the hell is wrong with our agencies that are supposed to be protecting us? I really hope if Trump wins that RFK will live up to his Maha promise to make America healthy again and get these toxins and chemicals out of our food. Trump has been spotted riding in a garbage truck in an effort to seize on the Biden comment. Former President Trump on Wednesday, this reported by The Hill, climbed into a campaign-themed garbage truck in his motorcade in Wisconsin in an effort to draw attention to comments made by President Biden in which he seemingly called Trump supporters garbage. How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden, Trump said from the passenger seat of the truck, which was adorned with a Trump campaign sticker and a Trump flag. That's the nicest looking garbage truck I've ever seen. Freaking spotless. He probably went out and bought a brand new one. First of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for, Harris told reporters. Biden sparked backlash Tuesday night when he appeared to compare Trump supporters to garbage while commenting on a racist joke a comedian made at Trump rally days earlier, likening Puerto Rico to an island of garbage. If I was the Harris campaign, I would just put Sleepy Joe back to sleep because he does not help you at all. He makes you look very weak, in my opinion. And if I was Donald Trump, I would never let another comedian ever go in front of me ever again. What a stupid move that still was. I still can't get over it. But there's some big people coming out as these final days of the race. Buzz Aldrin endorses Trump re-election bid. The second man to ever walk on the moon, if you believe that fairy tale. I don't. Aldrin said in his official endorsement that the U.S. is facing difficult realities domestically and globally, and the country needs a proven, serious, tested leader for president. The Apollo 11 astronaut praised the former president for helping create the U.S. Space Force and his support for advances made in the private sector. But don't feel sad, Democrats and lefties. You guys got, it's not a tumor. I have a headache. Well, maybe you'll have a tumor. It's not a tumor. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, comes out and fully endorses Kamala Harris. I will be an American before I am a Republican. The former Republican governor said that he was backing the Democratic because a Trump victory would mean 4 more years of bullshit. I don't know about that one. I don't really do endorsements, he wrote on X. I'm not shy about sharing my views, but I hate politics and don't trust most politicians. That's why he became one. I also understand that people want to hear from me because I'm not just a celebrity. I'm a former Republican governor. My time as... Man, he wrote a book here. Okay, he endorsed Kamala, man. I don't got time to read this nonsense. Now, there's some people taking this voting really serious. Associated Press reports teen Trump supporter charged with threatening Harris backers at polling place with a machete. Here's a picture of this kid holding a machete. Kind of looks like Danny Jones when he was younger. I was looking at a picture of Danny Jones. Actually, let's see if I'm crazy here. Is that Danny Jones, the famous, legendary podcaster? Probably not, but it looks like him. Let me see if I can pull up. I just saw a picture that Danny posted. This kid kind of reminds me of him. Danny, were you holding a machete, man, down at the polling stations, man? My internet. I don't know what's going on. In any event, back to the story. 18-year-old Donald Trump supporter is facing a felony charge after police say he threatened two Kamala Harris supporters with a 2-foot machete as they campaigned outside a Florida early voting site. Caleb James Williams is charged with a felony aggravated assault on a person 65 or older and a misdemeanor exhibition of a dangerous weapon, Neptune Beach police records show. Police Chief Michael K. Jr. said Williams and a 7, 16, and a 17-year-old drove to suburban Jacksonville Library Tuesday afternoon specifically to protest and antagonize the opposing political side, carrying Trump flags. They began yelling at a group of Harris supporters, and that escalated. Okay, this is not the time for this type of nonsense. And now, just a lot of negative things coming out, last-minute shots, stories that can harm either candidate. Texas woman died after being denied miscarriage care due to abortion ban, reports find. Jocelyn Barnica died days. State passed 6 weeks abortion ban and doctors delayed treatment. Just days after Texas banned abortion past 6 weeks of pregnancy, a woman died after her doctors in the state delayed treating her miscarriage for 40 hours. Experts told ProPublica that the September 2021 death of Jocelyn Barnica, a 28-year-old mother, was preventable. Barnica is the third woman reported by ProPublica to have died in recent years after being unable to access abortion legally or having her medical care delayed. Although U.S. abortion bans, which more than a dozen states have enacted in the 2 years since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, technically permit the procedure in medical emergencies, doctors across the country have said that the laws are worded so vaguely that they don't know when they can legally intervene. So that's not a good story for Trump. Spanish flood kills 95 as year of rain falls in a day of Valencia. My heart goes out to Spain. And someone who was supposed to represent Love, Diddy, formerly known as Puffy, New York grand jury hearing new evidence in Sean Diddy's Combs federal case. A federal grand jury in New York is hearing new evidence this week as a part of its investigation into Sean Diddy Combs. Attorney Ariel Mitchell told NBC News on Wednesday that a male client of hers is testifying before a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. A source familiar with the grand jury proceedings confirmed that a male is expected to testify Thursday, that is tomorrow. And there was another article about him right here in TMZ. Diddy judge says accuser has to reveal name or the suit will be dismissed. Diddy's facing a mountain of legal issues, right? We all know what's been going on. From anonymous accusers, but now at least one of them has to reveal their name or take an L in court. According to new legal docs obtained by TMZ, a judge in New York just ruled a woman suing Diddy for an alleged assault she claims happened 20 years ago must reveal her identity or have her suit dismissed. The woman is suing as Jane Doe, and her lawsuit is one of 120 suits. In the ruling, Judge Mary Kay says, although the allegations are sensitive in nature, the Jane Doe has not shown she's entitled to remain anonymous, pointing out the woman is an adult who decided to file a lawsuit in which she accuses a famous person of engaging in a heinous conduct approximately 20 years ago. The judge says the woman must file a complaint in her own name by November 13 or the case will be thrown out of court. As we first told you, this accuser was the first Busby client to file suit against Diddy, claiming he physically assaulted her under the threat of violence in 2004. Diddy has denied the allegations, so she's gonna have to, if she's real, she's gonna have to come out and say who she is. Israel strikes historic Lebanese city of Baalbek after ordering evacuation, killed 19 people, including 8 women, around Lebanon's eastern city of Baalbek. It came after tens of thousands of residents fled the historic city in response to evacuation orders issued by the Israeli military. Times of Israel reports Lebanese PM says hoping for ceasefire in coming days. U.S. drafted truce deal leaks. I hope that peace comes to the Middle East faster rather than later for the sake of all these innocent people that are dying. And a lot of them are dying from American-made weapons. Times of Israel reports U.S. tracking nearly 500 incidents of civilian harm involving U.S. weapons in Gaza. U.S. State Department officials have identified nearly 500 potential incidents of civilian harm during Israel's military operations in Gaza involving U.S. furnished weapons, but have not taken further action on any of them, according to the three sources, including a U.S. official familiar with the matter. The Washington Post reports that the reports have come from various U.S. government agencies, aid organizations, non-for-profits, media reports, and other eyewitnesses. While State Department guidance directs U.S. officials to complete investigations and recommend a response to such claims within 2 months, no single case has gotten this far in the process, according to the report. So, there you go. Mother and 2 children die after going over Niagara Falls safety rail. A mother and her children died after crossing over a safety guardrail at Niagara Falls. The act was intentional in nature. The incident occurred Monday night at approximately 9 p.m. According to the New York State Police, the woman identified by police as 33-year-old Keontae Means, along with her son and daughter, crossed over a safety guardrail and went over the falls on Luna Island. The investigation has determined that this incident was intentional in nature through circumstances remain under investigation. The children were identified by police as a 9-year-old Roman Rossman and 5-month-old Mecca Means. The family was from the Niagara Falls area. He said there's a lot of security measures at Luna Falls, which is located along the north side of the Goat Island between the America Falls and Bridal Veil Falls. It's not something where they just stumbled in. The family has been involved in the investigation. Based on the information we have, we do know it was an intentional act, but the reason why is tougher to answer. So many people are struggling out there. I mean, think about it, to be a mother and take both your children and jump off of a massive waterfall to your deaths. This is insane to me. North Korean troops in Russian uniforms are headed towards Ukraine, the United States says. As many as 12,000 troops to Russia came from North Korea. They got equipment and they're heading towards the Ukraine border. This is now a multinational battle. This story broke my heart. Sudan, hundreds of women died by suicide to avoid rape. The conflict in Sudan has greatly affected women and children, increases the dangers of sexual violence, and forcing many women and children to flee. There have been disturbing reports about women dying by suicide just to avoid being raped by armed militia. Halal Al-Karib, the regional director of the Strategic Initiative for Women in the Horn of Africa, also known as SEHA, confirmed this is an interview on News Central's program Yassiri. According to the International Organization for Migration, over 14 million people fled their homes with hunger, disease, and sexual violence rampant. So, it's just horrible. Let's see what she has to say here.
From the first day of the war, women has been sexually violated. The Rapid Support Force militia has been entering homes in Khartoum, the capital, and they committed multiple and a large number of rape and sexual violence crimes. And it continued. But the truth is, sexual violence and rape in Sudan does not happen in a vacuum. It has been happening in the country for over 20 years in Darfur. Yet it's exacerbated and became much worse, since the beginning of these wars.
And I'm praying. Sudan seems to be the forgotten conflict. So many people are dying there and suffering and starving to death. Starbucks hopes faster drinks, fewer upcharges, and nicer mugs bring people back. Their quarterly, profits are down 6%. And I promise you, it's not just the price of coffee. Most of it is because of boycotts that have been initiated for their perceived support of Israel and what is going on in the Middle East. This article is by NPR.org. And bird flu is now pig flu because it has been found in a pig for the first time in the U.S. And this thing continues to spread to humans and different species. I think it's only a matter of time before we need to be saved again by the government and shut down for our own protection, probably. Isn't it ironic Don't you think? In any event, this was pretty much all that happened today that was interesting enough to report on it. I want to thank you always for helping me and supporting me. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, share this content. Check out that episode of me on the Jada Bell podcast. Very controversial discussion. I thank you for your support as always. God bless you, and God save the world and America. This is Beck Lover, and you just watched another episode of the Interesting Times podcast right here on the Beck Lover podcast.